The universe of Starfield is incredibly vast and filled with rich history. In fact, there's around 280 years of it scattered throughout the game. There's a lot to cover here, so get comfortable, go to the bathroom, grab some snacks. Let's explore the history of the settled systems. History in Starfield begins in the year 2050, when humans first land on Mars. Not much is known about the first settlement or those involved, but only 50 years later, in the year 2100, humans are fully living in space, and Mars has turned from a couple research labs to full settlements. At some point in the 2100s, humans on Mars discover the first gravitational anomaly, which would be referred to as artifacts. A man named Dr. Victor Isa, who was trying to invent the grav jump at this time, is the first to physically touch this artifact and has a vision of himself from another universe, warning him not to use this artifact for developing the grav jump due to the consequences it will have on humanity. Dr. Isa chooses to ignore this warning and proceeds to use the artifact to aid the creation of the grav jump.
I know what I'm seeing, Victor. The data coming back from the satellites is very clear. It's the grav drives.
All those jumps from the moon. At this rate, Earth's atmosphere is going to start sputtering out into space.
Can the drives be fixed?
I'm working on some designs that should discreetly solve the problem, under the guise of an emergency update to the fueling pumps.
We're talking about the end of Earth, and you're trying to be subtle about it.
Judith, the last thing we need is people losing faith in grav drive technology. That might be our only option.
To what? Are you seriously saying we should abandon Earth?
The timeline is under 50 years. A blink of an eye for a planet, but more than enough time for a human exodus.
And what do we tell people?
We say it's an act of God, one that science has found a solution for. Time for humanity to take its place in the stars.
You knew, didn't you? You lied to me. All this time, I dedicated my life to this discovery, Victor. And you knew we were going to kill off our planet?
You haven't seen the future I've seen. There's an infinite expanse of promise out there. A meteor could hit Earth, a plague, another world war. Colonizing other galaxies secures humanity's future for all coming generations, across all time.
At the expense of our home.
Stop it, both of you. All that matters is building enough ships to get everyone off this planet. And we need to start now.
I'll draft up a statement. We'll need to address the entire international community. I'm sorry, Judith.
There isn't a planet in this universe that will be far enough away from you, Victor. We are never speaking again after this is over.
My name is Dr. Victor Isa. And if you're listening to this, then you probably already know the truth. I was young when I first headed the retrieval team of an odd gravitational anomaly on Mars, but I kept what really happened that day hidden from everyone except one other person. Even she didn't believe me at first, but I have no reason to lie to anyone now, so I hope you'll accept this confession, whoever you are. When I touched the anomaly, I experienced 12 days of lost time. I met myself. He told me everything that has since come true. The grav drive equations, the tests on the moon, Earth's atmosphere sputtering away because of what we had done. But he also told me about a city thriving on a planet orbiting a distant star. Human culture, art, music, lifestyles evolving and shining brightly across all of space. What price would I be willing to pay for that future? Maybe you don't believe me. Maybe Judith was right and I'm just a coward who wants to believe his mistakes were justified. But everyone has forgotten about the real origins of the grav drive, this artifact from Mars. I hope you make better use of it than I did.
The following decades see a surge in space exploration. In the year 2112, Deimos Star Yards Incorporated builds Cydonia on Mars, marking a significant achievement in humanity's history as it becomes the very first colony on an alien planet. Meanwhile, NASA has been getting ready to put humans on Titan, and by 2122, the Titan astrobase is established, serving the purpose to discover whether or not microbial alien life exists on this moon. The research ultimately hit a dead end, and the Titan astrobase's original purpose is abandoned after NASA defunds the project in 2132. However, the facility is repurposed in 2135, where engineers and scientists begin their research to determine whether or not colonies can be built on planets and moons that aren't habitable for human life. Back on Earth, however, things aren't looking too good. In the year 2140, a man named Rupert Brackenridge is convinced that Earth will face an extinction-level event within the next 50 years, and with his team begins the construction of a ship called the Constant, their plan being to leave Earth and settle on what they believe to be the most habitable planet, Porama 2. The passengers on this ship would mostly consist of the ultra-wealthy, artists, and scientists. There was a catch, though. The construction and eventual departure of the Constant would predate the widespread use of the grav drive, meaning that the trip to Porama 2 would take an estimated 200 years, and that only the great-great-grandchildren of those on the Constant would actually make it to their destination. At birth, people would be assigned roles to maintain throughout the ship, and the process would repeat for the journey. However, captaincy was passed down to next of kin, so that role would remain in the Brackenridge bloodline. Jumping forward 190 years, the ship's navigation officer makes some changes to the Constant's course and shaves off a full decade of their journey. Once the Constant had arrived in Porama 2's orbit, however, the planet had already been inhabited for quite some time, as this was the home of the Paradiso Resort. Due to the Constant's outdated communications technology, they were unable to contact anyone on Porama 2, or the ships they spotted flying to and from. So, they remain in orbit, planning their next move, until they receive interference from the Spacefarer, or you.
It's just that we weren't expecting to find life, let alone human life out here.
The Constant then realizes for the first time that other humans had in fact escaped the dying Earth and survived, because in the year 2149, other humans with connections on the inside began leaving Earth. By the year 2150, NASA had confirmed that Earth's magnetosphere was rapidly deteriorating and estimated that it will be completely gone within the next 50 years. Earth's evacuation begins. It would only take humans 6 more years to arrive in Alpha Centauri, our own solar system's closest neighbor. We land on Jemison, where New Atlantis would be founded, and in the year 2159, the United Colonies are established in New Atlantis and further take the helm of Earth's evacuation process. By 2161, New Atlantis is the capital of the United Colonies, and the Centaurus Proclamation is issued by the United Colonies, which would provide the framework for other settlements on alien planets and the establishment of their own sovereignty. Aquila City is founded by Solomon Coe, who was the first to explore the Cheyenne star system. Moving forward 20 years, the Xenofresh Corporation on Voli Alpha discovers the value of Aurora, and there is a lot of money to be made from selling it. So in the year 2187, Xenofresh Corporation transforms their fishing platform into the city of Neon. 1 year later, in 2188, Solomon Coe proposes an alliance between the Voli star system and Cheyenne, which leads to the establishment of the Freestar Collective in 2189. The Freestar Collective are the second interstellar government, first being the United Colonies, and control the star systems of Cheyenne and Voli. Years later, in 2194, The United Colonies placed the Clinic star station near the planet Deepla in Narion. The placement of the Clinic angers the inhabitants of Narion as no prior agreement is made with them, and they request it to be moved elsewhere. The United Colonies denies this request, which prompts Narion to officially join the Freestar Collective. By 2195, the Collective has mobilized to protect the inhabitants of Narion, and the United Colonies answer shortly after, mobilizing personnel into the Cheyenne system upon this unrest. The mobilization of troops from both the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies continues for around 1 year, and by 2196, the Narion War has begun. The war for control over Narion rages on until 2216, when the United Colonies wipe out the entire Freestar Collective's fleet. It doesn't end here, however. The civilians of the United Colonies begin to view their government as aggressors and protest that they conclude the war humanely. The cries of the people eventually persuade the United Colonies to propose the Treaty of Narion, which guarantees control of Narion to the Freestar Collective in exchange for a repayment of damages in the form of mineral rights on multiple worlds throughout the galaxy. The treaty also concludes that the UC and the Collective be restricted to 3 star systems each. The UC control Alpha Centauri, Sol, and Wolf, with the Collective controlling Cheyenne, Volley, and Narion. The treaty coins the term Settled Systems. In 2230, House Varun reveals themselves and establishes diplomatic relations with other factions. House Varun is the third interstellar government, built on a theocracy centered around a deity, the Great Serpent. It is thought that House Varun was created by passengers aboard a ship from New Atlantis that went missing in 2190. But in 2230, descendants of those passengers reveal themselves and tell us that it was a colony ship, and after making a series of grav jumps, one of the colonists aboard claimed he had communed with a Great Serpent, who told him to worship the Great Serpent or be devoured by it when it encircles the universe. House Varun and its leader, Genon Varun, only seek to spread the message of the Great Serpent at this time, but eventually, in 2240, Genon declares all-out war on all non-believing human civilization, and the Serpent's crusade begins. During this time, in 2241, a man named Jasper Crix forms the Crimson Fleet after telling of a Galbank ship thought to be carrying over 1 million in credits is lost. The future of the Crimson Fleet is dedicated to piracy and smuggling, and searching for what is now called Crix's legacy. Meanwhile, the Serpent's crusade rages on. This war is fought throughout the Wolf star system until 2263, when Genon Varun is killed. House Varun is taken over by Genon's son Jarek, who pledges to re-establish diplomatic relations throughout the settled systems. Jump forward to 2275, where Constellation is founded by Sebastian Banks. Constellation is a group dedicated to re-establishing the drive to go out and explore the galaxy, after true space exploration had begun to fizzle out. Further into the future, in 2308, the Freestar Collective colonizes a 4th star system, Lanara. This is a direct violation of the Treaty of Narion. As a response, the United Colonies besiege the planet of Vesta in the Lanara star system, killing all of its defenders. Thus, the Colony War begins. A key conflict early on in the war is the Battle of Nira. United Colonies occupy the Freestar planet as a forward operating move, but the Freestar Collective continue attempts to reclaim it, and what ensues is a violent battle. During the war, the UC city of Londinion would act as a supply hub for their war effort, but would be completely overrun by terramorphs, a violent alien species. UC Fleet Admiral Francois Sanon infamously orders the bombing of Londonian spaceport in attempts to stop the spread of the terramorphs. The UC has now sealed off the city and trapped all of its inhabitants inside. In 2311, the Battle of Cheyenne ensues. The Freestar fleet uses an aggressive hit-and-run tactic to bring down multiple of the UC Navy's major ships. This is a decisive victory for the Freestar Collective, and the armistice is agreed upon. The armistice serves to end aggressions between the UC and the Collective, and reduce the potential of any further conflicts. Strict limits are agreed upon and placed in regards to the size of military fleets. mechs and xenowarfare are banned, and all existing research regarding mech engineering and xenowarfare is to be stored in the Armistice Archives, a storage facility on New Atlantis that can only be accessed with permission from representatives of all signatures on the Armistice. House Varun, though not involved in the colony war, agrees to sign and abide by its terms. Peace is restored to the settled systems, and during much of the 2320s, the Constellation group grows. Eventually, in 2328, a member of Constellation named Barrett discovers the first artifact found by Constellation back in 2310 and decides to resume research on it. And finally, in 2330, well, that's up to you.